Cheers and salutations, my fellow Romans. My name is Kit. This is Americans Learn, and apparently from all the comments in the comment section below, many of you were looking forward to this one. No, not Five Guys, but the Five Good Emperors Unbiased History by Dovahatti. Now, folks, listen, if you're a true Roman, you will support the original content creator, you hip cool cats. You will drink some true Roman wine, have your true Roman wife make you some true Roman bread, and enjoy your Roman daily historical lessons from Dovahatti here at Americans Learn, because only true Romans can respect true Romans. So there you go. So, without further ado, since I am in charge of the ones and twos, let's get ready to play this video in a 3, a 2, and a Hail Rome.
Yes, we are スペシャルファイティングポーズを見せてやろう。その美しさにさひざまずくがいい。特戦隊特戦隊特戦隊
The best of the best. And while they are the 5 good emperors, they are not yet the chosen one, the hero, the savior. Now, I know many people say, well, according to this religious text or this other text, that this person's a hero. There's an unsung hero yet to be born. You could say the sun shines on him. We'll get to him soon, too.
The Flavian dynasty was shattered. By the end of the 1st century, thanks to the Senate, the Roman Empire stood once again at
I hate the Senate!
The precipice of civil war. The senators were quick to start shilling for their own favorites to take over power, but having assassinated such a competent and beloved emperor, none such vermin would do. Indeed, there was only one man they could elevate that was both competent, respected, and not feared. Nerva, by then very old and childless. Suddenly burdened with the empire, Nerva sought to restore order by pleasing the petty senators, allowing them to desecrate the Domitian statues and squabble freely among themselves, as he set about simultaneously reducing taxes and keeping the plebs entertained, with the help of Domitian's administrative staff that is, even cancelling a tax the Jews had to pay, so they wouldn't feel like revolting. But in his pursuit to please the senatorial parasites, he allowed Domitian's assassins to evade punishment.
No, even Claudius didn't allow that.
Something Domitian's Praetorian Guard couldn't abide by. One night, the Praetorians invaded the Imperial Palace, slaughtered the local guards, and ran a long-delayed massive purge on all of Domitian's assassins. Nerva was taken hostage during all this, but never harmed. In fact, they just let him go, and he thanked them afterwards. Everyone agreed a purge was needed. But old Nerva's days were counted either way. Nearing his death, Nerva cemented his reputation as the first of the 5 good emperors, by performing the greatest action possible, adopting Trajan as his heir. The senators were quick to start bitching, being denied their chance to lobby for their favorite vermin to become emperor. All while Trajan governed Lower Germania, scaring the Germs away with his...
Yeah, get out of here, Germanians. There's nothing good in Germania.
Mere presence. It was then that he received a messenger from Rome, bearing news of his adoption by Nerva. The messenger's name? Hadrian. They were second-degree cousins, you see, both descended from Roman colonists in Hispania, born in Italica. a city founded by Scipio Africanus himself to host his veterans.
That's right. That's right, Scipio Africata, the most glorious of commanders.
Trajan's own father had served beside Vespasian and Titus in Judea, while the young genius trained in Syria, and just like Caesar, instigated an aura of respect and reverence wherever he went. Once Hadrian's father died, his cousin Trajan, alongside a man named Antoninus, took responsibility for Hadrian and his sister, raising them as the children he never had. For a while, Trajan did get married with
a virtuous woman. It's a wife's duty to wait for her husband as he bangs other men.
His wife. He much enjoyed boy pussy instead. Hadrian, however, was so obsessed with twink-ass that he gained the title Greekling, embracing his duty as a Trojan descendant and civilizing all twinkie Greekoids he found with his massive Roman dick.
Let that be a lesson. Never mess with Rome.
And while the Spaniard cousins traveled south, Nerva got so tired of dealing with the Senate shit that he suffered a stroke. Being taken to his villa, he later developed a fever, dying shortly after. And as Trajan traversed the Limes Germanicus, having been informed of Nerva's death, he finished his border inspections and set off for Rome.
You know what I'm thinking? I don't know if you would ever do this again, but knowing how 3D, or not 3D, AI art and animation is becoming a thing, or not becoming a thing, it is a thing. I would love to see maybe Unbiased History, perhaps a remade version with artificial intelligence. It's just to see how it would react to this kind of script.
It's often hard to realize the importance of the times one lives in, but while few knew it at the time, as Trajan entered Rome on foot, they were about to experience the height of Roman civilization.
Good!
As Trajan approached the Senate, he was very respectful, emulating Augustus's benevolence to keep the treacherous senators in line, continuing Nerva's policy to placate them, including just as much bread and circuses for the masses. One of Trajan's countless skills was his ability to recognize talent, assembling the best of the best the empire could offer, sending them to govern the provinces and legions with great autonomy. One such brilliant mind was Apollodorus of Damascus, the genius engineer he met while in Syria, whom Hadrian would always fangirl around, and Lucius Quietus, the civilized Berber prince, bringing both along with him wherever he went, including Dacia. As we'll remember, Decebulus, being a filthy barbarian, betrayed his word, using the funds and weapons given to him to fortify against the Germs to instead fortify against the empire, rallying the local tribes against Rome.
Never trust a barbarian. I mean, look at them. No, you can't trust them.
Trajan, of course, was revolted by this betrayal and asked the Senate permission to invade, which they unanimously did, but civilizing Dacia would prove to be a one-sided affair. For Trajan would have to defeat a people as well armed as the legions, thanks to their iron mines, defending steep mountain forts built with stolen Roman technology, all while enjoying local terrain knowledge and a massive advantage in numbers. Trajan was about to fucking annihilate them. Having Apollodorus build a temporary bridge, Trajan crossed the Danube, invading with 2 legionary columns and meeting Decebulus' legions at Tapae. As he relentlessly slaughtered the barbarians,
yes!
Caesar sent a powerful storm onto the battlefield, terrifying the Dacians into a retreat.
Yes! Slaughter them all! I mean, gentlemen, let's be as civilized about this as possible.
After returning to the Empire to pass the winter, Decebulus charged out of nowhere, crossing the frozen Danube in a surprise attack, but the ice collapsed on them, submerging his army in the back, while Trajan quickly mobilized a vicious cavalry counterattack in the front, led by Lucius Quietus. Beaten back, and with Trajan's legions threatening to advance further, Decebulus promptly surrendered. In his infinite mercy, Trajan allowed the Decebulus to remain as client king, only ceding
Why would you do that when you could put his head on a spike? But okay.
some territory and promising to be loyal this time. As part of the treaty, the Dacians provided the resources for Apollodorus to build a huge permanent bridge across the Danube, which would remain the largest one ever built for a millennium, threatening the Dacians with an immediate imperial response should they revolt. And of course he revolted again. Not even a year later, he was already sacking Moesia again.
I told you, don't trust the barbarian!
Pissed, Trajan would invade again, starting the Third Dacian War to make sure there wouldn't be a fourth. With the military skill born only once in age, Trajan, alongside Commodus, crushed all barbarian hordes in his way as he marched to the Dacian capital, laying siege to it. As he did so, a local barbarian betrayed the Commodus, showing where the water supply of the capital was located. Trajan then cut it off, forcing them to surrender, as the Commodus cowardly fled towards Sarmatia. Meanwhile, Trajan was informed by another Dacian trader of where the Commodus' gold deposits were, and with this massive gain of his hands,
that cash money, money, cash. Only true Romans can enjoy the gold, as we should. It hurts me to know how the story ends, but at one point, Rome was there, and hey, folks, right now, the 5 good Roman emperors are, guess what? You know it, you better believe it, making Rome great again. As they should. As they should!
there was only one thing left to do. The Commodus was later encircled by Trajan's cavalry, and, refusing to pay for his crimes against civilization, he killed himself to avoid capture. Dacia was then broken apart into subservient tribes, with its valuable mines annexed by the empire. Trajan would then bring the Commodus' severed head and right arm to Rome, throwing them at the Gammonian stairs, where Sejanus had once been strangled and Vitellius beheaded. To celebrate the conquest of Dacia, Trajan held a majestic triumph, bringing to Rome 700 million sesterces worth of gold with him, and another 700 million more every single year from the new province. With these new riches, Trajan would benefit the empire as a whole.
Ha! What do you have kind of animals are those?
Proclaiming 123 days of celebration in the Eternal City. After pleasing the plebs, he would have Apollodorus build him a great column to show how Dacia was conquered, Trajan's Column. Then a forum for the patricians, Trajan's Forum, and a market for everyone, Trajan's Market.
I love it. Simple name. We got a market. What do we call a market? Trajan's Market. We built a new forum. What do we call it? Trajan's Forum. We got a new column. What do we call it? Trajan's Column. We got a new road. What do we call it? Trajan's Road. We got a new bridge. We call it Trajan's Awesome Bridge. See, naming things is pretty freaking easy. Come on, folks. Come on, folks. Listen, everybody, listen, think.
And a road for everyone as well. Can you guess? Yes, Via Traiana. And when the client king of the Nabateans died, Trajan sent his legions to directly annex it, bringing civilization to Arabia by building a road connecting it to the Red Sea, going through Petra in its route. Yes, the parallels are only going to increase. For the next 7 years, Trajan ensured the Roman peace, spending his off time exchanging letters with Pliny the Younger, a good friend of both Tacitus and Suetonius, and assigned the governorship of Bithynia. There, he attested to the emperor's wisdom and virtue, asking him advice on what to do about the Christians. Trajan's advice? Ignore them. For even among the Christ-cucks of the future, Trajan would still be universally loved as a virtuous pagan. But while Trajan did
Hold on, I love this song right here. Listen to it again. Hello, have you heard of new good news? Dead Jew on a stick.
There, he attested to the emperor's wisdom and virtue, asking him advice on what to do about the Christians. Trajan's advice? Ignore them. For even among the Christ-cucks of the future, Trajan would still be universally loved as a virtuous pagan. But while Trajan did everything in his power to make the Pax Romana true to its name, the barbarians of the Far East wouldn't allow him.
Barbarians!
The Parthians, in his arrogance, put his own nephew on the throne of Armenia. As the Roman emperor, Trajan had an agreed right to veto this choice, but Vologases ignored him. Betrayed a second time by barbarian treachery, Trajan gathered his legions once more, set on conquering Parthia once and for all.
Get them!
First started with Armenia, quickly taking over the mountains, putting the king in prison, where he later died, and annexing Armenia as a Roman province, subjugating its surrounding areas as client states. As he did so, a Dacian revolt had broken out, forcing him to send the Syrian governor to go crush it, promoting Hadrian to govern Syria in his place. Only then, with Quietus on his side, he launched the invasion of Parthia, conquering city after city in a pincer-move attack. As Trajan sailed down the Euphrates conquering cities, he stopped to build a monument, then conquered the Parthian capital, reaching the Persian Gulf and building a statue for himself to celebrate, deposing Vologases and appointing his own client king for Parthia, annexing Mesopotamia as a new Roman province.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It was the culmination of countless Roman legacies. From the early forefathers' conquest of Italy, to the Scipio's salting of Carthage, the late Republican subjugation of the Greekoids, to Caesar's conquest of Gaul, and his imperial successor's consolidation of the empire. Trajan had brought the empire to its greatest extent, from the North Sea to the Persian Gulf.
Oh God, it's beautiful!
The known world had been united under the Roman eagle, its legions invincible, their emperor almighty, his power unmatched, attained by divine right. The first emperor to ever live up to Augustus. No empire would ever again match Rome's glory. Forevermore, Trajan would be acclaimed as Optimus Princeps, the best emperor.
And there will be one who will restore it. But his story has not yet been told yet. And I have something very special for all you true Romans for that hero. If this video gets 500 likes, not only, if this video gets 500 likes, we will do a live stream, full-on reaction for the hero who will restore the world. It'll probably be more than like an hour and a half, maybe. But if we can get to 500 likes, we'll do that. We'll do that video for you, the people of Rome. But because you're true Romans, we're going to hit that rewind button. Remember YouTube Rewind? This one is glorious.
Own client king for Parthia, annexing Mesopotamia as a new Roman province. It was the culmination of countless Roman legacies, from the early forefathers' conquest of Italy, to the Scipio's salting of Carthage, the late Republican subjugation of the Greekoids, to Caesar's conquest of Gaul, and his imperial successor's consolidation of the empire. Trajan had brought the empire to its greatest extent. From the North Sea to the Persian Gulf it stretched. The known world had been united under the Roman eagle, its legions invincible, their emperor almighty, his power unmatched, attained by divine right. The first emperor to ever live up to Augustus. No empire would ever again match Rome's glory. Forevermore, Trajan would be acclaimed as Optimus Princeps, the emperor of the united. From the North Sea to the Persian Gulf it stretched. The known world had been united under the Roman eagle, its legions invincible, their emperor almighty, his power unmatched, attained by divine right. The first emperor to ever live up to Augustus. No empire would ever again match Rome's glory. Forevermore, Trajan would be acclaimed as Optimus Princeps, the best emperor.
Glorious.
It's all downhill from here.
Why did you do that? Why did you have to say that? Can't you just lie to the people? What about the hero? The one who restores the world? Why would you say that now?
What first got the ball rolling south were the Jews, having migrated to the other eastern provinces after their first revolt failed so spectacularly. Wherever the Jews went, they refused to convert to the Roman gods, being shunned away from society at large. Their resentment towards Roman rule culminated in Cyrene, with Lucullus, for he had a theory, this Lucullus. The reason why the first Jewish war was lost, Lucullus argued, was that the Jews didn't kill anywhere near enough as many innocent civilians as they should have. And by the gods did he ever put that theory to the test. Proclaiming himself king of the Jews and inciting religious fervor in Cyrene, Lucullus threw another great Jewish revolt. It soon spread all over the east, with him using his forces to persecute and genocide as many civilized Roman civilians as he could. And I do mean genocide. 240,000 killed in Cyprus, 220,000 killed in Cyrene, and Jupiter only knows how many in the other provinces. And after slaughtering the severely outnumbered Roman garrisons, they had the dead's flesh cooked for meat, their skin used for belts, and the survivors thrown to wild beasts. Once the revolt spread to Mesopotamia itself, along with some cities still resisting being civilized, and a Parthian revolt breaking out, Trajan was forced to turn his forces back. As he put down the troubles in Mesopotamia, he sent Lucius Quietus to save the eastern provinces from the Jews, cornering the rebels on Judea, where he crushed them so efficiently that a whole second Jewish war was named after his corrupted name. Back in the front lines, Trajan was dealing with the last pockets of resistance. After pondering the divine beauty of the desert sun a little
that sun is quite beautiful.
too much, he suffered a heat stroke. As he was being taken back to Rome, he urged to write an official letter proclaiming Hadrian as his heir, but his worn-down body gave out before he had a chance, dying after almost 20 years in power. And what 20 glorious years those were! Now, had Plotina been your standard Roman viper, this is where she would betray the emperor's wishes. But
No! She's a good Roman woman.
as I've mentioned, she was a virtuous one, keeping
Yes. A good, virtuous woman, as it should be. I hope someday to find my own true Roman virtuous wife. But I don't think that exists.
Trajan's death a secret. She had an actor mimic his weakened voice, proclaiming Hadrian as his heir, later signing the letter herself. Having led Rome to its greatest heights, from there on, every future emperor's ascension would be blessed with the words, Felicitor Augusto, melior Traiano. May he be luckier than Augustus, and better than Trajan.
And only one would truly earn that title. Only one. If this video gets to 500 likes, a special live stream for the people.
As Hadrian read about his cousin's death, an unrivaled weight had been put upon him. If the gods would challenge him with living up to the likes of Trajan, then Hadrian, being acclaimed imperator by his men, would embrace the task head-on. Being the fortunate position of governing Syria and all its legions, the senators couldn't bring themselves to bitch too much. They still hated him though. Why? You're asking the wrong questions. What would come to define Hadrian's rule was an immense love of civilization, combined with a deep hatred for barbarity. The result being a preference for highly trained legions, non-stop constructions, and consolidated borders, the last one being the first he tackled. For as glorious as Trajan's eastern conquests were, it was left to Hadrian to answer the big question. Was the Middle East worth civilizing? Oh no, gods fucking no. Instead of direct rule, Hadrian recalled Quietus with his legions, settling with having the new provinces made client kings, except those already integrated into the empire. They could stay, for now. But while the senators kept their vitriol mostly to themselves, one whom did bitch openly was Antoninus. He just wouldn't shut up to Hadrian about needing to purge all of Trajan's former staff members, getting refused every time. So Antoninus, directly opposing the emperor's orders, had the Praetorians murder 4 ex-consuls whom previously served Trajan, including the former governor of Syria and Lucius Quietus. When he learned of the murders, Hadrian was horrified, immediately kicking Antoninus out of the Praetorian Guard. But the damage was done, and so the centaurs began bitching without restraint. Ending treason trials and promising not to hurt them didn't please them. So Hadrian turned to the plebs, and to appease them for good, he had all state debts of the past 15 years pardoned, having the Praetorians burn the documents in public, making him even more popular than any Flavian. Speaking of whom, if Domitian was a micromanager, then Hadrian was a nanomanager. While Trajan left governance to his capable staff, Hadrian meddled with every single imperial affair, ensuring everything operated efficiently and justly. And to do so, he spent over half of his reign traveling through the provinces of the empire. First, he headed to the Rhine, disciplining them to prevent another one of their revolts. later having them prevent another Germanic incursion by upgrading the walls of the Limes Germanicus. Which takes us to Britannia, where Hadrian headed north to deal with a recently crushed rebellion, and saw with his own eyes the monstrosities that there lived. Without hesitation, Hadrian ordered a massive wall built to protect the
and have the Scots, I mean, not the Scots, the Caledonian people pay for it.
Citizens of Britannia from the horrors that now laid beyond the wall. He then went to Hispania, where he relaxed by hunting down animals and fucking some twinks, then went south to crush a Moorish rebellion, and then went to the east, there negotiating with the Parthians to stabilize the borders. And during his trips, he just kept building shit wherever he felt like. Everywhere, that is. And as he passed by, he renamed a Thracian city as Adrianople in his honor. Yet another thing for you to remember, pleb. That included reconstructions as well.
Hey, come on, quit calling us plebs. Are we ever going to earn the title of being patrician? Please?
Well, therefore rebuilding Agrippa's pantheon in its current form, and moving the Colossus Solis to stay beside it. Along his trips through the east, he indulged the wildest dreams of every Greek twink he found, until he met the most beautiful of them all, Antoninus, who possessed an ass of such quality that even Sporus would kill for it. In such a good mood would Antoninus put Hadrian, that while in Greece, he allowed the Greekoids to assemble themselves into a pan-Hellenic league led by Athens and Sparta, only for it to be broken apart by petty squabbling, as Hadrian both reassured Rome's authority over its client kings and indulged.
Can't trust Sparta, can't trust Athens. Sorry. Nope. Break it apart. Have Rome run it again.
In the weird religion the Greeks had so shamefully copied from Troy. Afterward, he sailed for Judea, there seeking to restore Jerusalem as a proper civilized Roman city.
And this will be the last time there will be any military intervention in Jerusalem. Alright? Same thing with Trajan too. Last time. There will be no more instigations near Palestine or Jerusalem or anywhere else in that region. From here on out, it's over. No more action. I feel pain in my stomach.
Naming it Aelia Capitolina, in honor of both him and Jupiter, ordering a temple in his honor to be built, later banning the barbaric practice of circumcision, which all combined to really trigger the Jews. A lot. By then, Antoninus had come to mean much to Hadrian. It was the truest form of love there was, that of a cum-slut to their master. They even traveled to Egypt, visiting the pyramids and Sphinx as a rich couple in love does. Nevertheless, Antoninus was still beset with one great terror, fearing when Hadrian would abandon him for a woman. Little did he know that Hadrian wasn't bisexual. He detested women, like his wife, but Antoninus was still driven to depression over it. And as Hadrian was resting by the shore of the Nile, the dead corpse of Antoninus floated nearby. The emperor was heartbroken. Drowned in sorrow, he secluded himself into absolute isolation, suffering waves of sadness, grief, and lots of anger. Meanwhile, the Jews were at it again, about to throw yet another revolt. Led by the proclaimed Messiah Bar Kokhba, he promised to retake Judea by any means necessary. He gathered his fanatical Jews, slaughtered the local Roman garrisons, and retook Jerusalem for themselves. When the local legions tried to restore peace, they were pushed back by 500,000 rebel Jews. Bar Kokhba purged Judea of all non-Jews, Romans and Christians alike, along with their wives and children. When news of the massacre reached the emperor, Hadrian went mad. He sailed for Judea, followed by 12 legions, and started killing every single Jew he found. No mercy was shown, no quarter given. Hadrian would settle with nothing less than the complete destruction of Judea.
Calm down, buddy.
He was just the wrong guy to piss off at the wrong time.
And that's the last military operation or any kind of strife near Jerusalem or Palestine or anywhere else, Israel or anywhere in that. See that area? No more. No more military operations there. It's over after this. It's done. They will never happen again, period. I have a pain in my stomach as though the ghosts of the future are warning me that I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
May his bones be crushed. I already miss Josephus. But as history often teaches us, discounting your rage on the Jews can only get you so far. The truth was, after 2 decades ruling the empire, Hadrian had grown old and tired. His heart was kindled somewhat after an astrologer told him of a falling star, claiming it was proof of Antoninus' divinity. He would from here on be worshipped as the god of twink beauty. But all came to a head when Hadrian finished the Temple of Venus, building it to please his hero, Apollodorus, asking him for criticism. But just after he did so, he died, leaving Hadrian with no heroes in this already loveless, familyless, friendless world he lived in. As death neared the emperor, Hadrian was consumed by the issue of succession. His only male relative old enough to take over was Fuscus, his nephew, guarded by Servianus, a barely civilized Iberian. But Fuscus had proven himself to be nothing but a hedonist degenerate, so Hadrian refused to make him his heir, for the good of the empire. But said good wasn't in the mind of the claimants, whom, in their rage, attempted to overthrow Hadrian, only to get absolutely trashed, and sentenced to death. Before he died, Servianus threw an Iberian curse on Hadrian, dooming him to beg for death, but be unable to die. With their deaths, all hope to prevent another civil war seemed to be lost, which was when Hadrian met him. The great-great-great-nephew of Trajan, a young genius of a supremely gifted intellect, unparalleled virtue, and the fullest admiration for honor and duty. From that day on, Marcus became the solution to the emperor's problems. But not quite. While absolutely perfect in every way, Marcus was still too young. So to serve as a stopgap, Hadrian got a man named Lucius Caeonus Commodus to adopt as his heir. Then he died of tuberculosis. Yup, leaving his son Lucius Verus behind as well. But no problem, cause Hadrian adopted one of the few virtuous senators still left, Titus Aurelius Antoninus, to take his place. It wasn't that simple. Hadrian offered the adoption, and Antoninus, wondering if he was worthy enough, needed a few days to consider. But he came around to it, the conditions for the adoption being that he would in turn adopt Marcus, then named Marcus Aurelius, whom was made to marry Antoninus' daughter Faustina.
Faustina, calm down. He will give you his stoic genes, but you just gotta calm down, woman. Calm down. Calm down.
With whom, despite hating sex, he had 13 children with, fulfilling his duty as a husband. Antoninus was also made to adopt Lucius Verus as well.
Jesus Christ, man. Get off of her.
Oh, cause why not? He was a cool guy, as we'll see. And with the succession settled, Hadrian finally allowed himself to start dying. Such was his agony in his last days that he ordered several men to kill him, but so strong was the aura of respect he had built around him, his slaves just kept killing themselves to not disobey him. Antoninus then took care of him, getting rid of any knives Hadrian kept sneaking into the room, until the emperor, after so much begging, finally died, leaving Antoninus to continue the dynasty that would be named after him. And he did absolutely nothing for 23 years.
Oh, wow.
Based. Well, he did order the deification of Hadrian against the Senate's wishes, gaining him the title Pius, the Dutiful. But things generally just happened around him. Like when the legions pushed north and built the Antonine Wall, slaves were given more rights, out of mercy, Roman representatives were sent to China through the Indian Ocean, all while he remained in Italy, never leaving it, not once.
Cool.
Oh, and that time when the new king of Parthia, Vologosius IV, reunited his shithole kingdom and threatened to invade. So Antoninus just sent him a letter, saying encroachment on Roman territory would not be taken lightly, which was enough to make Vologosius back down. But having reached his late 70s, Antoninus, after cursing out to the Parthians for daring to disrupt Roman imperial order, succumbed to old age, dying in his bed, leaving the empire to the greatest Roman alive at the time, him and his adoptive brother. The Nerva Antonine dynasty, so far, had been blessed with great emperors, and Marcus Aurelius was no exception. Unfortunately, in the first year of his reign, he would be faced with a monumental tragedy. Faustina, after birthing many kids, such as Lucilla, had given birth to twins, one of which died soon after birth. But that was not it. The real tragedy was that the youngest twin, a boy named Commodus, survived.
No!
The hard truth was that the greatness that defined the Trojans and early Romans had been fading for centuries, becoming ever rarer.
That they
More
did.
and more, great men gave birth to weak fools. Marcus Aurelius could feel that dark times were ahead for the empire. From time immemorial, the patrician Aurelianus clan had been entrusted with the cult of Sol, the solar god of victory. As the newest member of the clan, Marcus embraced his duty. Having been boosted through the cursus honorum by Hadrian, being taught by the wisest man of his time, and reading the works of Stoics such as Seneca, Marcus Aurelius grew to be by far the wisest emperor to have ever lived.
Good.
After Antoninus' death, the Senate sought to betray Hadrian's last wishes, and proclaim only Marcus the princeps, but he shunned their efforts, demanding that equal power was granted to Lucius, as had been wished by his adoptive grandfather. The senators, as always, relented, and thus Marcus and Lucius became the first co-emperors to rule Rome, after just finishing a joint consulship, so that's neat. Next, the co-emperors had to deal with the ever-corrupting Praetorian Guard, drowning them with bribes, to Marcus's disgust.
Why would... Just lousy Praetorians.
And once Volgassius heard Antoninus was dead, he went ahead with his invasion, ransacking the east, taking over Armenia, etc., etc.
Can't trust a barbarian.
To counter their aggression, Marcus was forced to relocate several Danubian legions to the east, appointing Verus to lead them against Parthia. He then meandered around for about a year, arrived in Antioch, and began partying, playing, and fucking non-stop, while delegating highly skilled legates such as Pertinax and Avidius Cassius to crush the eastern barbarians in his name. Which they did, not only retaking Armenia with ease, but beating the Parthians all the way back to the capital and burning it to the ground.
Yes.
Volgassius then sued for peace with Verus, whom, after marrying Marcus's daughter Lucilla, demanded the annexation of portions of Armenia and Mesopotamia, naming himself Parthicus Mediacus Maximus. Both emperors then celebrated a triumph, Verus out of joy, and Marcus out of necessity. Butthurt beyond belief, Volgassius called upon a terrible curse on the world, using his own eastern black magic to wish for the deaths of millions in a pitiful display of rage.
No.
The result was the Antonine Plague, a
No.
smallpox epidemic that would indeed kill millions of innocent Romans and soldiers alike. Another terrible consequence of the war was that now that the Danube was mostly demilitarized, the Germans saw their opportunity to strike. One of the biggest Germanic tribes were the Marcomanni, led by the barbarian king Balomar. Seeking to destroy civilization once and for all, Balomar promised to bring forth the chaos and destruction the Germans always desired, uniting the tribes under a single Germanic confederation, including the Quadi, the Chatti, the migrating Yazigi nomads, and the evilest of them all, the Vandals.
Can't trust them. Can't trust anything from Germania.
Starting the Marcomannic Wars, the Chatti invaded both provinces of Raetia and Germania Superior, getting beaten back by the Rhine legions.
Good.
The Germans then focused on the Danube, invading Pannonia and also getting beaten back by the legions. The local governor even summoned the tribal leaders to answer for their aggression. Being led by Balomar, they promised to leave the empire peacefully. The governor was persuaded to trust them, letting them go.
No!
When he returned to governance, Balomar invaded again and killed him. If there is a lesson to be learned here, I already taught it.
Yes.
In the same year,
Never
the
trust the
Vandals and
Germans.
Yazigis invaded Dacia, killing its governor and later pillaging Moesia. Called to action once more, both Marcus and Lucius prepared to march north and save the empire, only for Verus to contract the Antonine Plague and suddenly die.
Oh.
Marcus mourned his adopted brother's death, taking responsibility for his family. For better or worse, Marcus was now the sole emperor. Leading the Roman response, Marcus liberated the provinces of Dacia and Moesia, but to his back, the Germans invaded again, using the Roman roads to ransack Pannonia all the way to the Balkans. It was through these roads that Balomar also invaded, overwhelming the legions with his hordes and taking over Noricum, pillaging his way south into Italy and laying siege to Aquileia. But being too uncivilized to possess any siege weapons, Aquileia held long enough for Marcus to march west, pushing Balomar back north. Marcus set pursuit, crossing the Danube and raining retaliation on the Germans so hard that both the Jazyges and Quadi broke off the confederation.
Go away!
At the same time, a Hispanic legate challenged a Germanic king to single combat, defeating him with ease, and kicking his entire tribe out of the coalition as well. And so, Marcus sang praises of Maximus, and made him one of his top legates. And then suddenly, the Quadi betrayed their word, rejoining the confederation, alongside the Jazyges. By that point, Marcus had reached the same conclusion Germanicus once did. Only the complete extermination of the Germanic hordes would ensure peace. His mind made up, Marcus sent all of his legates to purge the forests, including ones like Pesquinius Niger and Clodius Albinus. And during the night, he put his philosophical brilliance to the paper, producing the Meditations, the ultimate guide for living a virtuous, stoic life.
Good.
As the war raged, the gods joined on Rome's side, striking bolts on barbarians during sieges, and starting rainstorms when the legions ran short on water. Getting beaten to a bloody pulp, both the Quadi and Jazyges surrendered to Marcus, real this time. And with this great victory at hand, the entire East rose in revolt. Yeah, remember Avidius Cassius? He had been in correspondence with the Empress, and with her melodramatic waning, it seemed like Marcus was about to die. Fearing a civil war, Avidius Cassius proclaimed himself emperor to prevent a power vacuum. Thing is, Marcus was still alive, but before he could do anything, the Senate declared his old friend an enemy of the state.
No.
Avidius Cassius was then murdered by one of his centurions, and Marcus refused to see the body. After crushing the last remnants of the Germanic hordes, it became clear the emperor was indeed nearing his death. Despite old and weak, Marcus saw that the purged German lands were annexed into the provinces of Marcomania and Sarmatia, and finally, it was time to revise his succession. Having called upon Maximus to his tent, he adopted him as his heir, and fearing the rise of incompetent
Commodus?
emperors in the future, he entrusted Maximus
Commodus is
to
not a
restore
moral
the
man.
Republic and cleanse Rome of the corruption that had crippled it long ago. As he went to inform Commodus of his choice, bitter and lusting for power, he had Marcus suffocated, killing his own father. He then lied about Marcus dying of natural causes, securing the support of the legions, except Maximus, and declaring himself the new emperor. The 2nd century is often remembered as Rome's golden age, and yeah, it's thanks to Commodus why we're now saying goodbye to it. After ordering the death of Maximus and hearing that he escaped, Commodus ordered the death of his entire family back in Hispania. Right after, he ordered the abandonment of his father's conquests, letting the Germans go without punishment so he could return Rome and be a hedonist degenerate. And that's exactly what he did, being such a shit emperor that he already began being conspired against. To counter this, Commodus ran a massive purge of the Senate, the good, competent senators still left that is, filling the Senate with even more incompetent fools, spending his days making everyone's lives miserable, including Pertinax, Salvius Julianus, remember that last name, and a competent provincial governor named Septimius Severus. And Severus is not a man you make angry. And while the empire drowned in revolts, Commodus larped as Hercules Reborn, wielding a giant barbarian club to torture amputee war veterans and crush midgets in the Colosseum. It was left to Pertinax to actually crush the revolts, alongside Pesquinius Niger, the last one remaining being by Clodius Albinus in Britannia, but it was never resolved. To glorify his newly named Senate, Commodus named 25 worthless men to serve as consuls in the same year, among them Septimius Severus, and he was not having it. And as yet another great fire broke out in Rome, Commodus was busy renaming the city as Colonia Lucia Aenia Commodiana, the
How
Romans
dare
as the
you.
Commodians, and every single month of the year named after his 12 self-given titles: Lucius, Aelius, Aurelius, Commodus, Augustus, Herculeus, Romanus, Exuperatorius, Amazonius, Invictus, Felix, Pius. And to celebrate, Commodus ordered the reenactment of the Battle of Zama on the Colosseum, but the Punic gladiators were well led, winning the match. Commodus then came down to congratulate the winner, whom then revealed himself as Maximus, vowing revenge for his emperors and family's deaths. After
Yes!
failing to have Maximus die in the arena, he threatened his own nephew's life to his sister, forcing her to reveal another plot against him. After all his friends were killed, Maximus was imprisoned and set to fight Commodus in a match, being stabbed before our hands to ensure his death. Mortally wounded, Maximus was thrown into the Colosseum to fight Commodus, true emperor versus pathetic larper. Maximus quickly gained the advantage, despite increasingly losing consciousness. Commodus then attacked with a hidden dagger, being countered and stabbed to death with it.
Farewell.
Having avenged his loved ones, Maximus relayed Marcus's wish to restore the Republic, then giving in to his injuries. As Lucilla arrived, it was too late. Maximus was dead. Rome's golden age has ended. Its best days forever gone. While the glory of the past might be lost, its memory will live on. For there once was a dream called Rome.
There's still hope. That was a wonderful, wonderful Roman history lesson based 100% on facts, based on truth, based on honor, and most importantly, Rome itself. Folks, listen, I believe in a true Rome, and we're going to make Rome great again someday. But I understand why so many were looking forward to this episode. But you know something, folks? The hero, the chosen one, has yet to be born. And as we leave the 2nd century and into the 3rd century, we will need him now more than ever. So until then, folks, if you like what we do here at Americans Learn, please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you're a true Roman, grab yourself some true Roman wine and true bread, and make sure your true Roman wife hands it to you. We'll be continuing on this series, and if you want to see more, listen, folks. As you know, I've been hinting about the character Aurelian. If we get to 500 likes on this video, we'll do a live stream potential. I have to run it by the administration of the military campaign of Aurelian. I got a video. I found a video about good old Aurelian. It'll be a lot of fun. So if you don't got it, get it. If you don't get it, go figure it out. Or either that, maybe we could do a whole reaction or check out, get our learn on of Aurelian himself. Until then, drink water, be awesome, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see all of you on the flip side. And remember, folks, support the original content creator, because that's what the 5 good emperors would do, because they're true Romans like you.